Welcome to Your Mac Life for Wednesday, July the 5th, the day after Independence Day, 4 days after Canada's version of Independence Day, just called Canada Day. I hope you all had a great time at your respective national holidays, either in Canada or the U.S. I worked on Canada Day and was off on July 4th, which is kind of cruel. I had to work the Canadian holiday, but I heard the fireworks. I didn't actually see any fireworks. It pissed me off. I like fireworks. I've always liked fireworks. I think, does anyone hate fireworks? Because I think that person, there'd be something wrong with them. You gotta love fireworks. Anyway, so hopefully you all had a good holiday, whichever one you celebrated. On tonight's show, as always, we'll talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. We're going to talk about the iPhone's future. Specifically, I'm curious as to what he and you think about the iPhone's physical future. This form factor feels kind of, if not perfect, it can't go much further. What do you think is going to be the physical form factor of future iPhones? We know the software is going to change. The people are always coming up with interesting, cool ideas for software. But what's going to happen to the iPhone physically? Will it get bigger? Smaller? Will it stay the same size? Will they change the materials that they use? Will it go to a full screen, touch screen, with no more home button, but it'll be a touch screen? I'm curious to know what is going to be. I don't have enough imagination to know, or even take an educated guess. So I want your thoughts and opinions on it too. Send me emails to Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com. Give me your thoughts on what you think the future of the physicalness of the iPhone will be. And in our starting point photography segment, we're going to be talking about composition. Composition is, in my opinion, the single most important aspect of photography. If you don't compose things well, if your photographs aren't visually interesting, everything else doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you get the exposure right or the aperture right or the shutter speed perfect or anything else like that. If it's not an interesting photo, it's not a good photo. So we'll talk about composition tips that I can help you guys with. And as always, if you have any questions about photography, love answering those. Send them off to me, to Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com. So for my July 4th day off, I went over to an area called the Sunshine Coast. Went out to a place called Horseshoe Bay. You can Google map these things to get a sense of the physicalness of where I was. Went out Horseshoe Bay and took a ferry across the Sunshine Coast, which is kind of funny because the Sunshine Coast isn't an island. It's actually attached to the coast of North America. It's on the mainland. But because of the nature of the land we are in, you can't drive to the Sunshine Coast. At least I don't think you can. Certainly you can't do it easily because of the mountains that are here. So you take a car ferry. You hop on this little car ferry here on your car, your motorcycle, and you take a ferry from Horseshoe Bay in West Vancouver over to a little town called Gibsons. And for the Canadians in the audience who are over a certain age, the name Gibsons means something. In particular, it means a restaurant, Molly's Reach, and that means a TV show called The Beachcombers. And when we were kids in the 70s and 80s, The Beachcombers was the biggest show on TV. It was the best thing on TV. We watched that religiously. And the funniest thing is, if you go back and watch the Beachcombers reruns or do a YouTube search for Beachcombers, it's awful. It's not a very good TV show. But to be fair, not many of them in the 70s and 80s were all that good. Scott Thrift says, "Oh my God, I love the Beachcombers." You got the Beachcombers in Australia, Scott? That's kind of cool. I didn't know that. I thought it was just a Canadian show. So that's where I was, Scott. I was in the town of Gibsons at the restaurant Molly's Reach. It wasn't a restaurant at the time, but it is a restaurant now. It was a fun, hokey, corny TV show. It was about a bunch of ne'er-do-wells on the coast of British Columbia, riding boats and grabbing logs. It's a funny show. So that's the town I was at, was in Gibsons. And we went riding the motorcycle around there. Some really, really pretty views, some gorgeous scenery right along the water. Typical small town, not a whole lot there. There's a lot of touristy stuff in particular. And then I figured I'd stay overnight rather than rush back home in the dark. By the time I got home, it would have been dark. I figured I'll just stay. And I was saying earlier in the pre-show that I think I've officially gotten to that age where I'm too old to sleep in hotels anymore, because the beds it just killed me. Oh, my back is killing me today, and it's probably undoubtedly because of the bed. I just didn't get a good night's sleep in this hotel bed last night because I'm so used to my own personal bed. You know, you get used to your own situation. You get used to your own pillows, your own. As Monty was saying, he brings his own pillows with him when he goes traveling. I can't do that because usually when I'm traveling by a motorcycle, and I don't want to stuff a pillow into my motorcycle. But it's funny today. I'm just exhausted. I woke up every couple hours. It was a nice enough little motel, nothing special motel. It was nice enough. It wasn't like the motel stunk or anything else like that. It was clean and it was fine. But the bed is just. I'm sure that's why I'm exhausted today. My back hurts and I'm just tired. So I'm sure that's part of it. But yeah, it's funny. I posted a comment about the Beachcombers on Twitter, and the response I got was hilarious. People were just like, "Oh, they're the same as Scott Thrift in Australia." Said, "I love the Beachcombers," and there's a whole bunch of do a Google search or a YouTube search for Beachcombers, and you'll see the trailer for the show and get a sense of what I'm talking about. And again, it's just a corny TV show from 2017 standards. It's kind of funny, kind of cool. So as I said, later on the show, we're going to talk to Jim Dalrymple about the future of the iPhone. And I saw this picture on Twitter, and this is what got me thinking about it, from Jason Heiner. That's the original iPhone on the left and the latest iPhone on the right. Look at the size difference. I think the screen is, 4 times bigger? It's just remarkable, the change. And I know I don't have an original iPhone anymore, but I'd be really curious to have them both side by side and to see the physical difference, to feel the difference. I still think that the original iPhone felt the best out of any iPhone I ever had. I never liked, I think it was the 4 or 5. They had the sharpish edges on them. Wasn't crazy about that. And the 6 and 7 have got chamfered edges, but because the material it's made feels so slick and smooth, it doesn't feel as comfortable as the original iPhone did. The original iPhone, to me, still feels the best in my hand because it was thicker, it had the rounded edges, and I don't know about the material, but I don't remember thinking that the original iPhone was slippery in my hands. I was afraid of dropping it. This one, I'm afraid of dropping all the time. I've got it in a case 99% of the time because I'm always worried about it. And as you can see, I have, in fact, can you see it on the screen? No, you can't. I have, in fact, dropped it and cracked the upper screen on this iPhone. So it's a bit. It's one of my favorite ones. Is the original iPhone for the physicalness of it, just the way it felt in my hands. So that got me thinking about what's going to happen. That picture, that shot of the original iPhone and today's iPhone, got me thinking about what's going to happen physically in future iPhones. Can it get bigger? Would you want it to be bigger? For those of you who have the 6 and the 7, can you imagine a physically bigger iPhone? I mean, right now, and I've got, fairly good-sized hands, But this feels about as big as I want. I don't think I'd want a phone much bigger than this. I can see Apple, as I think Scott mentioned in the IRC chat room, they will make these bezels smaller, these edges on the sides and on the bottom. Not much room on the side, but certainly there's a lot of room on the bottom. So they'll physically make it bigger screen-wise, but not dimension-wise. I think that's an obvious possibility that they can do. High resolution is another obvious possibility. I don't know if it can get much thinner. I don't know if you want it much thinner. And maybe different materials. Like I said, this material here I find feels very slippy. I'm always worried about dropping this thing. So I don't know if their issues. My issues with the slippiness is something Apple would take into consideration, not mine, but obviously other people's, and change the materials that the next iPhone is made out of. As always, please join us in the IRC chat room. Thanks to our good friend Monty, who has set up the IRC chat room for us in such an easy, ridiculously easy way. All you have to do is go to the website, yourmaclifeshow.com. Right there below the video, you can see the IRC chat room that Monty has set up. All you do is put your name in, and it drops you into the IRC, and you can talk to Sly, and you can talk to Monty, and a bunch of other folks in the IRC chat room. Or, if you are a Slack user, you can go to yourmaclife.slack.com and join Wayne and Mo and some other folks in the Slack chat room. So you can use, if you're a fan of Slack, you can use that app. That app to communicate via the show. As always, send us emails to onair@yourmaclifeshow.com. And if you would be so kind to go to the website, yourmaclifeshow.com, and subscribe to Your Mac Life. You can subscribe for $2, $5, $10, $15 a month, whatever you so choose. We had someone in the IRC chat room last week asking, why doesn't the show have advertising? Any number of reasons. One is I don't like advertising. I'd prefer that the audience support the show through their subscriptions, donations, if you will. So that's the best and easiest way to support the show, is to, whether you're listening in live tonight on Wednesday or listening in via the archive, $2 a month hopefully doesn't affect your life, but with enough people giving me $2 a month, it does affect my life. So I would appreciate if you guys did that. So later on in the show, we're going to talk about composition, the single most important thing in photography, in my opinion. But up next, we'll talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. This is Your Mac Life. Welcome back, folks. Thank you guys very much for joining me here on the show, whether you're listening in live or by the archive in our phone. Now we've got our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. Jim, how you doing? Jim, how you doing? Oh, gee, crap. Dropped. I'm going to call Jim right back. Did you...
Hey. You will not believe what just happened.
What happened?
This dragon came and hit the disconnect button.
So after all these years, a dragon came and finally hit your disconnect button.
Yeah. No, what happened is that I went to put the phone down.
Uh-huh.
And my thumb was right on the disconnect button, and it just hung up on you.
See how easy it is to do? That explains all the times I've done it to you over the last 10 years.
Yeah, except you dropped the phone first.
Yeah, well, and that's something I was talking about earlier in the show is that I find I've got the iPhone 6S Plus, whatever the hell it is. I find it the material it's made of to be very, very slippery, to be slick, not. I know a lot of folks don't feel the same way, but for me, for whatever reason, this is the only iPhone I've ever used where I've got it in a case all the time.
Well, maybe it's because you have greasy hands.
It could be. That certainly is a possibility. And that's what I want to talk to you about. What do you think the future of the iPhone physically is going to be? We know about iOS 11, and we can imagine all kinds of weird, wonderful AR software things that the phone's going to do. But can you envision any significant changes to the physicalness of the iPhone in the next even 6 months to a year to 3 or 4 years?
Well, I mean, it's hard for us to look, years out.
Yeah.
But I think if you look 6 months out, yeah, I mean, we know that that they're trying to make the screen bigger.
Yeah.
They're trying to do different things in the casing so that the front of the phone will be all screen. So, wow. I'm in the thunder and lightning storm in Dallas.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're in Texas, aren't you?
Yeah.
And why are you in Texas?
I don't know, but God's pretty angry right now.
But the thing is, you're in Dallas. You could see that storm coming 2 days away.
Well, yeah.
Because, Dallas is flat as a goddamn pancake.
That is very true. It's like I'm meeting some people that like this is heart of Texas stuff.
Yep.
I'm a little scared.
Have you what's the temperature there in Dallas?
Oh, probably 130.
That's right. I always told Texas people our ovens in Canada don't get as hot as it gets in Texas.
Yeah, it was in the 90s today, but right now it's 82.
And that's not bad. It's not off your California highs,
but
is it?
No, but it's really humid.
Yeah.
Really humid.
It gets nasty there. And you were in Austin last week, weren't you?
Yeah, I was.
Did you go down to I think it's 6th Avenue, all the bars down 6th Avenue?
6th Street, yeah.
6th Street,
yeah. And what's funny is that I went down 6th Street and I went with a couple of people that I know, and Scott said, "Do you want to go into the Driscoll Hotel?"
Yeah.
And if you've ever been there, you know the Driscoll is not a big modern hotel, but a big old hotel that's there. He said it's haunted. And, they've done haunted shows in there and stuff like that. So I said, yeah, well, whoever's going to serve me a Heineken, I'll go in. I don't care.
Right.
So I went in, and there was this man and woman, old man and woman, playing. And they were playing slide blues and singing.
Yeah.
And I sat down, and I didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
And then they were saying that they were from Canada.
Oh, cool.
So as it turned out, they were from Ontario, which, whatever.
Yeah. But I wouldn't have talked to them then.
But they did have a family in Nova Scotia.
Oh, cool.
So it was a very cool time, and they were really talented people.
That's one of the great things about going down to 6th Street in Austin, Texas. Austin, Texas, folks, for those of you who don't know, is a fantastic music town. It's very much like the Texas version of Nashville, where every bar has got a live band, and they're really good singers and people you've never heard of, but you want to sit down and have 10 beer listening to them.
Yeah, and the thing I found, because I was in Nashville too, but Nashville has a lot of country bands at these bars, but Austin has a lot of everything.
Yeah.
You know, you go to one bar, it's a country bar. You go to the next one's a blues bar. The next one's a rock bar.
Yep.
And the next night I went out with a different friend, and he took me to a place called Cedar Street. And there was a band there that was an 80s hair metal band.
Oh, jeez.
And they played for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And it was just like non-stop 80s hair metal. You know, I left there and my neck was hurting.
Yeah, because you're banging your beard.
Yeah, it was just... And when I stopped, my beard punched me in the face, you know.
Yeah,
it was great.
It's a great town. Yeah, I really liked. I never liked Dallas. Dallas was just a big city. It didn't do anything for me. But Austin was always cool. Whenever I had a chance to go there, it was a lot of fun.
Well, Dallas is still very nice.
Really?
I'm really enjoying Dallas.
Yeah,
I really am.
I never.
Now, see, I'm not downtown Dallas.
Okay.
So I don't know what. I don't know what downtown Dallas is like, but I spent yesterday out at a lake about maybe 40 minutes outside of Dallas in a place called Greenville. And it was amazing.
Yeah, good.
Just amazing.
Good. Another thing I was thinking about because of thinking about the physicalness of the iPhone was this Bloomberg story that got reported by everybody that the next iPhone might use 3D face scanning technology instead of Touch ID. This has got to be the dumbest story that was written in the past 7 days.
Or months.
Or whatever, because it makes no sense whatsoever. I can conceive of no reason why Apple would dump Touch ID in favor or the fingerprint scanning of Touch ID in favor of this 3D face scanning. It makes no sense.
Okay, so let's look at this. Cops are coming. I gotta go.
Your ride's here.
Let's look at this from a different angle, because I was thinking about this. So let's assume that Apple's new display, assuming it has a home button on the screen and stuff, can't handle Touch ID.
Yes.
10 seconds. Time to find you.
What the mother?
God damn it, autoplay fucking crap. Jesus Christ. Frickin' Zhivago guy.
Let's assume that I actually like that Zhivago guy.
I can't stand him. He looks homeless.
No,
I can't stand the guy.
Well, maybe that's why I like him. You know, so let's assume for a minute that these rumors of their thing can't handle a thumbprint anymore.
Yep.
Okay, so where do you go from there? Well, face scanning, eye scanning, whatever.
Yep.
But we've seen that doesn't work.
Yep.
So, okay, take it a step further. What about 3D so that it needs to know that you're an actual head and not a picture?
Yes.
Okay, maybe that would work. But there are still problems what if you're in a concert that it's dark?
Yep.
Is it going to see your head?
Yep.
I mean, yours is pretty big, so maybe it would.
And bold, and light reflects off it quite nicely. But yours is all dark and bearded, so it wouldn't see you.
I mean, it would just see like a forest for me.
That's right.
So, I mean, there are still problems that we don't know about that I just can't see unless Apple has done the most amazing job in solving things.
Yeah.
Technical issues, and I just don't think that they could have. But maybe they've been working on it for 10 years, and now they finally have 3D scanning for your head that can unlock your phone. It could be.
Well,
that's something. That's something that Apple would do.
I don't doubt Apple is working on this kind of stuff. They work on a lot of things, but it makes no sense to go in that direction when Touch ID is so much simpler. It's just a thumbprint. You don't got to worry about lighting. You don't got to worry about a 3D head shape. You don't got to worry about all that kind of stuff.
I agree,
and especially because it's fairly recent technology. What we've had Touch ID for 2 years, maybe.
Now, I'm not saying that the rumor is true.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is let's look at it from the other side instead of just saying no. What would have to happen that Apple would use something else besides Touch ID?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So, those are the things that would have to happen. But that means that Apple would have to have some pretty extensive technology to unlock your phone as easily as it unlocks with the thumbprint.
Yes. And that's the thing. It would have to be just as easy, if not easier, than Touch ID.
Right. And I just don't know that they're there. But clearly, there are a lot of things about Apple that we don't know.
Sure.
So, is it possible? Of course, anything is possible with Apple.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if that's what they're going to do, man, oh man, they better have this stuff down. I mean, because if I have to go outside from a concert just to open up my phone to take a picture,
yep.
Come on.
Yeah, exactly. That would be the first thing I would turn off.
Well, you can still type in your code, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's no way I'd want anything to do with that kind of stuff. The Touch ID stuff works fine. It's simplistic. Everybody can use it because the other thing is it's easy. It's fairly easy, if not a long process, to get your fingerprint into Touch ID. You have to move it around and put it up and down for like 5 minutes while you play around with it. But it's something that's simple to do. I can't imagine because your face, as Scott was saying, face scanning, no thanks. I swear I look completely different when I first wake up to the rest of the day. Your face changes during the day.
Well, but with 3D scanning, they must have this figured out. I mean, you're not going to change that much.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that it'll be going for your like 3D facial features.
Yeah.
And measurements and all that kind of stuff. Now, for twins, maybe that would be a problem.
Exactly. It just there's just no way around in my mind that this makes any sense at all.
Yeah.
Did you notice this? Pushkar Ronaday. I don't know who Pushkar Ronaday is. Pushkar Ronaday.
Bless you.
Yes, exactly. Notice this. I saw Tim Cook's tweet on the 10th anniversary of the iPhone. He wrote, "Here's to the iPhone that changed the world, to the man who dreamed it and the people at Apple who have never stopped looking to its future." And it's a perfectly lovely Tim Cook tweet. He, the usual stuff that he tweets. And you scroll down, and there's a picture of the original iPhone, the original apps, and all that kind of stuff. And Pushkar noticed that on the date stamp of Tim Cook's tweet was the exact same moment in time that Apple announced the original iPhone 10 years ago at 9:41 a.m.
That was pretty good.
That's insane.
That was pretty good.
That is insane that Apple pays that kind of attention to detail, isn't it?
Well, and it's also insane that somebody noticed it.
Yeah, it's fairly easy. I don't know what app Cook uses, but I know you can use things like TweetDeck to set. Are you in a bar fight? What the hell?
I'm not in a bar fight.
You're in a bar, though.
I am sort of in a bar. I'm not in a bar fight, though.
But yeah, I mean, you can set tweets up, and I think TweetDeck and maybe Hootsuite and those kinds of apps to go out at a certain time. But just the idea that they would say, "Hey, we're going to send this tweet out tomorrow or later today at the exact same moment in time that Steve Jobs announced the original iPhone 10 years ago at 9:41 a.m., which is incredible."
Come on, that's why we love them.
Exactly. And it's also why we get so upset when they don't do things right, because they pay attention to these kinds of details. And when they miss some details, we get all bent out of shape because we expect this kind of stuff from them.
Well, we expect better than what they deliver sometimes.
That's right. Yep.
And I think that's fair because it's not just us. Apple expects that of themselves.
That's right. Yep.
So when Maps takes us down dirt roads that are dead ends, yeah, we get pissed off.
Yep.
When Apple Music doesn't work, yeah, we get pissed off.
Yep.
And I think Apple, the company, gets pissed off when stuff like that happens.
Sure.
So, we're not holding them to any standard higher than what they hold themselves.
Yep.
So when things don't work, that's why, people ask me, aren't you afraid to say something bad about Apple? I've never been afraid to say something bad about Apple because I am not holding Apple to any other standard than what they hold themselves. And when I criticize things like Apple Music or Maps, those are features you told me would work.
Yep.
And they don't.
Yep.
So you fix that, and I'll be nice.
It's one of those things that always pisses me off when so-called members of the media, the most recent example was formerly of TUAW, Victor Agredo. He accuses members of the Macintosh media of not criticizing Apple because they're afraid of losing access. Well, first of all, the vast majority of the Mickey Mouse Mac media out there don't have any access to Apple. All right. First of all, there's your first clue. Secondly, there is no journalist out there worth the name journalist who is afraid of those kinds of things, who would sugarcoat or lie about Apple in order to maintain access to Apple. Because your reputation, as you and I have spoken about many, many times before, your reputation, your integrity is more important than your access to Apple.
I've said bad things about Apple. I've said good things about Apple's competition. Groover, same thing.
Yep.
I've said great things about Pandora. I think Pandora is a great service.
Sure, yeah.
Whether financially they're doing it or not, I don't know. I don't really care. I know that the service is really good and in a lot of ways better than Apple Music.
Yep.
But I'm sure that Apple will pick up its boots and, that was pretty good being in Dallas, pick up their boots. That they'll do that and, Apple Music will come out and be great.
Yeah.
But until it is, I have no qualms at all about saying, this shit just doesn't work.
And the important thing I want folks to realize, you're not worried about getting that phone call from Apple saying, hey, that was unfair, or we disagree with that, or anything else along those lines. And they do that. I've been on the receiving end of those conversations. But if you are a true journalist and have true integrity, you don't even think about that. It doesn't cross your mind that I'm going to write this story, but Apple might be pissed off at me. It never comes into the thinking.
Look, I think that for most journalists, when they write a story, if they write it with the best of intentions and with backup to what they're saying,
yep.
and by best of intentions, I mean honestly.
Yes. Yeah.
If they write it honestly, then, if you're looking for a quick headline and, something that's going to bring in clicks, then that's different. But if you write a story, whether good or bad, and you say what you think, and you have proof of what you're saying, then nobody can be pissed off with you. And if they are, that's their problem.
Yeah, that's right. It always pisses me off when people accuse those people with access as, the only reason why you have access is because you kiss Apple's ass.
Oh, well, they can say what they want.
Yeah.
I mean, just look back at my writing for the last 20 years.
Yeah. The folks I know who have access to Apple are not ass kissers, and that the accusation is unfair. At least not ass kissers of Apple. David Pogue is one of the biggest ass kissers out there, but he never kissed Apple's ass. He said some very, very arguably harmful things to Apple, about Apple, and he stood behind them. So even I don't even like the guy, and yet I would not question his integrity when it came to writing bad things or good things about Apple.
But then, there are those people out there that will say all kinds of bad things, and I think they're wrong.
Sure, yeah.
I read an article, I don't know when it was, in the past little while, a bad article about Apple Music. And as many problems as I have with Apple Music, I don't agree with this article.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I know the guy who wrote it, but I don't agree with what he said.
Yeah. Wayne asked an interesting question in the Slack chat room. He says, do we have any evidence Apple has ever done that? I don't know if Apple. I don't know of any case where someone's written something negative about Apple and Apple has therefore pulled access. I know where people have done stupid shit like Gizmodo and Apple's pulled access. Certainly that. Or I also know people who feel for whatever reason they deserve access to Apple and don't get it, and they say, "Oh, it's because I'm critical of Apple. These guys aren't, so they get access. I am, so I don't get access. I'm therefore more holier than thou. I have more integrity than they do."
Right. Whatever.
The classic example was Mark Gurman. But because Mark Gurman dealt in rumors,
right,
Apple was never going to invite him to any of the events.
No.
He wasn't a reporter. He was a rumor monger. Now, whether you agree with him or not, whether he was right or not, is immaterial. He was a rumor monger, and Apple doesn't deal with rumor mongers.
Ever.
Doesn't matter how many times he's right, he was never going to get an invite to any sort of Apple press event because of he wasn't a reporter in that sense of the word. And that's fair.
Right.
I have no problem with that.
Hey, any company can decide who they're going to invite and who they're not.
Yeah, you don't have a right to be at an Apple event.
No, or any other company's event. I mean, I don't get invites to Microsoft's Surface events because you could hear me laughing from the audience,
That's right. Did you see that video of Joanna Stern trying to spend a week using the original iPhone?
No, because I wouldn't do that.
But you know what? Give it a chance. I agree with you. I think those articles are stupid. I think the articles, let's compare an iPhone with a $10,000 DSLR. Those are stupid articles. And I was perfectly willing to say this was a stupid article or a stupid video before I watched it. But it's Joanna Stern. She said some dumb things, but her videos can be very entertaining. And this video was very entertaining. The funniest part was, though, she said she was going to use the original iPhone for a week. She lasted 12 hours.
Yeah. Well, of course.
Yeah, but that's kind of scary, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. How it shows how much we rely on our iPhones nowadays, more so than 10 years ago.
What if you wanted to use the original iPhone in 2000? Then you'd be using it a lot with all the stuff you could do.
Sure, yeah, exactly. That's an interesting point. Yeah, if you went back before the iPhone and had an iPhone, and people had Razr phones, and
let's go back to 1990 and pull an original iPhone.
You might be tried as a witch.
Yeah, maybe
that would be magic. But yeah, it was definitely a silly concept for the video, but the video itself was done well and very interesting. But like I said, it was something you knew how it was going to end. When I read the headline said spend a week with it, I thought to myself, yeah, she ain't going to last a week. And I watched the video and she said 12 hours. Yep, that's about right. That's about how much you can put up with it. That's about it. Because there's so much about the iPhone nowadays that we not like, but that we rely on. And that's the key to me.
She lasted longer than I would have.
I think so, yeah. Like I said, I never would have bothered. If my boss at the Wall Street Journal had said, hey, do this, I'd go, why? What's the point? It's just dumb.
Yeah. Well, there is no point. Yeah. That's the whole thing.
But like I said, it was her presentation of it made it worth the watch because it was interesting enough, the way she presented it to make it worth my while to sit through the whole thing and watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't find it interesting at all.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. I saw this interesting. This was from I don't know who this guy is, Farouk Butt on Twitter. Follow along with me on this. Amazon didn't kill the retail industry. They did it to themselves with bad customer service. Netflix did not kill Blockbuster. They did it to themselves with ridiculous late fees. Uber did not kill the taxi business. They did it to themselves by limiting the number of taxis with fare control. Apple did not kill the music industry. They did it to themselves by forcing people to buy full-length albums. And Airbnb did not kill the hotel industry. They did it to themselves by limiting availability and pricing options. Technology by itself is not the real disruptor. Being non-customer-centric is the biggest threat to any business. Do you agree with that?
There's a lot to be said for that.
It's interesting, isn't it? That I don't know if it's because of technology that this is more true. I think technology plays a part in it in that if you screw over customers, they have more options now in a lot of different ways than they maybe did before. And with the internet, they can find other options much, much faster than they could before.
I mean, the last 45 I bought was probably my Sharona. So, you know, I mean, there was, the record companies knew that people wanted to buy singles.
Yes, they didn't care.
And they didn't care.
Yep, that's right.
And they just took their money and ran.
Yep.
You know, even from the artists, they took their money and ran.
Yep.
So
that's why I have very little sympathy for these folks. Even though I don't like Uber as a company, the concept I like because as he says, the taxi industry did this to themselves by limiting the number of taxis on the street and by price controls.
Well, and being dickheads.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like they were there doing us a favor.
Yep.
No, I'm paying you.
Yep.
And no, you're not doing me a favor. I'm paying you for a service, and you suck at your service.
That's right, exactly. Well, and the ironic thing is everybody here in North America, and certainly in Western Europe, claims to be capitalist, but as soon as they get their foot in the door, they want government regulations to prevent competition.
Right.
But capitalism is about competition. You provide a service, and the market will decide whether your service is valuable, not government regulation, not limiting choice, not like here in Vancouver, the taxi industry in Vancouver is strong enough that there is no Uber or Lyft in Vancouver. And it's not because Uber or Lyft don't want to come to Vancouver. They certainly do. But the taxi industry, the taxi industrial complex here in Vancouver have successfully prevented Uber. I think Uber's tried 3 times to come to Vancouver, and the taxi industry all 3 times has had enough political clout to stop Uber from ever even putting a single car on the road.
Well, you have no idea what you're missing.
Well, yeah. The problem with Uber, first of all, the company's just a bunch of assholes. Let's talk about Lyft. That it's this service economy devalues everyone's work. So you have these people like taxi drivers. The individual taxi drivers aren't making all that much money, and you're not making all that much money as a Lyft driver or as an Uber driver. But it is a customer service. And it's a choice you make whether you want to drive for them or work at McDonald's or whatever it might be. I'm a big fan of let the market decide. Let Lyft, Uber come into Vancouver, into whatever area they want to, as long as they play by the rules. And the rules aren't restrictive, because right now the rules are you can't do a Lyft or an Uber company here in Vancouver.
Right.
Make the rules available so that everyone follows them, and let the proverbial chips fall where they may. Wayne says,
I agree with you.
Wayne says ditto here in Halifax. I didn't realize that there's no Uber in Halifax either. No Uber or Lyft in Halifax.
Neither did I. But you know, I think that there should be, and you know, I can speak from personal experience in Halifax. The taxi industry there sucks balls.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yep, it does.
They absolutely suck.
Yep.
So. You know, it's not that I want to see taxi drivers lose money or anything like that, but hey, if you're so good and you can compete, then compete.
Exactly. That's right.
But the fact is, you know that you're not very good.
Yep.
And as soon as that happens, you will not be able to compete because the Lyft service, which, you know, we keep talking about Uber, but I think we use Uber like in terms like we use Kleenex.
Yeah.
You know, Kleenex is a brand name, not an actual tissue. So we use Uber like that, but I use Lyft most of the time. And when I call a Lyft, I'm at most like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So a taxi, I could be 15 minutes, 30 minutes.
Yep.
I could be 2 minutes. You never know. And when you get there, it's going to be dirty because they all are. And the car is going to be rickety, like the fenders are going to fall off in the next bump you hit.
Yep.
And the guy's not going to be friendly. So why the hell would I want to sit in a car with you for 10 or 15 minutes going to where I need to go?
Now, Scott and Monty make a good points in the IRC chat room. Scott Thrift in Australia says Airbnb are total jerks. The amount of buildings here in inner city Sydney that are now almost entirely short-term rentals is unbelievable. Lots of stories every day about people being evicted so that the property can go online. And Mosquito says Airbnb destroys affordable housing. So I'm not
Well-
saying that Airbnb or Uber or any of the other industries are perfect, but the industries that they are displacing kind of deserve what they get from that
Okay.
point of view. I'm not saying, again,
So-
not Airbnb is not perfect.
Yeah, but I agree with them on that point that affordable housing is going away because these people can make a lot of money on Airbnb,
Yep.
and they make more money than what they would make as a full-time rental, as a
But that's
a mid to
capitalism,
low
too.
Well,
That's-
it is.
that's
but
capitalism.
Where are people supposed to live? I mean, Shawn, have a heart, man.
Yep. I know, but you know, in some ways you can't have it both ways. You can't claim to be a capitalist society, but want socialism as well. The two don't. There's no such thing as is socialist capitalism or capitalistic socialism.
Okay, Trump.
Well, and Scott Thrift says I pay $300 a week Australian. They were getting $200 a night on Airbnb.
Right.
Okay, that's fair. I own this apartment. Are you telling me I can't do what I want with my own property?
No, but I get what they're saying though.
Yeah, so do I. But if I can find some idiot who's going to pay me $200 a night to stay in my apartment, why shouldn't I be allowed to do that?
You know what? I'm going to put my space under the bridge up.
see what you get. Exactly.
See,
Give it a shot. Folks,
$30 a night.
Folks, been talking to Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. He's over there in Dallas, but he'll be back in San Francisco. No, sorry, San Jose. Where do you live? What bridge? Where's your bridge?
Oh, sometimes I have stakes in a couple of bridges.
Oh, okay. I just want to check.
Unknown caller.
Someone's got an unknown caller. Me? Oh, it's someone from Santa
Not
Barbara.
me.
Someone from Santa Barbara is calling me, so I got to let you go.
All right.
All right, talk to you later, man. Bye-bye.
All right. See you. Thanks.
I have no idea who in Santa Barbara is calling right now. Decline. Go away. It's obviously a spammer. No one from Santa. I don't even know anyone in Santa Barbara. Yeah, there's certainly two sides of the story when it comes to things like Airbnb. If I've bought this house, or I own this apartment or this house, there is an argument to be made that I should be allowed to do whatever I want with it. I should be allowed to let whoever I want stay in this house. It's my four walls. Assuming that, like, for me right now, I rent, so I wouldn't be able to turn my rental into an Airbnb. I'll go off for a week somewhere and turn my apartment into Airbnb. No, I can't do that. But say I own a condo. I own the condo. Why can't I rent it out to somebody else? Now, there's all kinds of condo strata places now that won't let you do. I've seen several signs here in Vancouver that say, Airbnb's not allowed. Okay. But if they're allowed, why can't I do that? But I also get Scott's point that there's no more, in most points, there's no more affordable housing. Believe me, I'm a victim of that myself. I cannot possibly live in the city of Vancouver on my own. A one-bedroom apartment in Vancouver costs on average $1,900. That's literally more money than I make in a month. So I can't afford, there's no affordable housing in Vancouver for me. So I see both sides. But for me, a big part of it is if we are a capitalist society, then I should be allowed to do what I want with my property within the bounds of the law. Same with Uber. If I own a car and I want to drive strangers around, if I have the insurance that covers that, why can't I drive strangers around for $20? Why is that a problem? Oh, because it hurts the taxi industry. Well, the taxi industry are a bunch of assholes. Again, they brought it on themselves. Same with the music industry. The music industry knew customers wanted to buy singles. And yet they still found ways to try to force us to do MP3s. So, there's two sides of the coin. But it's tough to have sympathy for the other side, for hotels and the taxi industry and the recording industry and these other folks who had monopolies or who had control of their industries. And because they weren't customer-centric, because they ignored what the customers wanted and very clearly were asking them for, they lost their grip on their industry. And the problem is, the folks who came in may be as much, if not more, predatory than the previous guys. So, there's that. As always, send us emails to onair@yourmaclifeshow.com if you have any comments about anything that Jim said or I said, or your thoughts on Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, whatever it might be. Shawn@yourmaclifeshow.com. Yesterday, who's a beginning photographer, and she was saying that she doesn't go on these photo walks, or she doesn't go on photography trips. She likes taking photos, but she doesn't go on any of these photo walks because I've only got an iPhone. I said, why do you say only got an iPhone? Well, it's just an iPhone. It doesn't take very good. Yeah, it does. It takes really good pictures in the right situations. And I showed her a couple of the usual couple of tips and tricks on the iPhone. I showed her how to turn on the grid mode so she could get the rule of thirds. I showed her how to do some real quick editing. And she was like, oh! And then she ran around her garden taking pictures of all her flowers because now she had some confidence. As I teach in one of my classes, it doesn't matter what camera you use. You can take good pictures. And one of the keys, in my mind, in my opinion, to taking good pictures is composition, is the way the picture looks on the screen. I'm a firm believer that if the photo isn't composed well, it doesn't matter whether the lighting is perfect. It doesn't matter whether you've nailed the aperture. It doesn't matter whether you've just completely got the shutter speed. If it's a boring photo, it's a boring photo. I went to a photo gallery opening thing of a fairly well-known here in Vancouver photographer, and I was looking at his photos, and about half his photos were boring as shit. They were just uninteresting images. Technically, they were perfect. Half of them were in black and white, and he nailed the black and white aspect of it. He nailed the shutter. He nailed the aperture. But they weren't interesting photos. That's my opinion. You may have seen the photos and thought something completely different. But to me, the composition of his photos just wasn't very interesting. And so therefore I didn't care about the technical aspects of it. If the image in front of me isn't interesting, I'm just going to move on. So you've all heard about the rule of thirds. I've talked about the rule of thirds a dozen times, if not more, on the show and in this segment. It's a very simple concept. Think of whenever you look through your viewfinder, on your phone or your point and shoot or your DSLR, whatever it might be. Imagine, on the iPhone you can see it, a tic-tac-toe board, 9 squares with 4 intersections. What you want to do is don't put what you think is important in that center square. Simple as that. It's this weird concept. Whatever's important to you in the shot, whatever you think is the most important aspect of the shot, don't put that thing in the center. Put it up on one of the intersections of the tic-tac-toe board. Just don't put it in the center. That's called the rule of thirds. You can look it up on Wikipedia or look it up on YouTube, and there's all kinds of explanations and descriptions of it. Mosquito says, never put the subject in the center. It's much more interesting if you find the alternative. I don't know what that part meant, but yeah, never put the subject or the thing that you think is important in the center of your shot. The other thing is never put your horizon in the center of your shot. So when you take a picture of the beach and the sky, there's that line where the sky meets the ocean. That line should not be dead center of your image. For some reason, that makes it a bad image. You want always to have more sky than ground or more ground than sky. And it's simple. When you're framing up your shot, just either tilt the camera up a little bit or tilt the camera down a little bit to get more ground or to get more sky. And that includes if you have people in the shot too. Don't have, if you have a person in the shot, I see this all the time, especially with beach pictures. Someone will take a picture of their loved ones at the beach, and the horizon line goes through their head, and it decapitates them. It'll go right through their neck or right through their ears. Again, just get down a little bit lower so the horizon line moves, so it's not cutting them off directly in the head, or get up a little higher so the horizon line goes down below their waist kind of thing. And get closer. That's the other thing too, composition-wise. Get as physically close to the thing that you want to take a picture of as you can. My friend Melissa yesterday, we were at this little craft brewery in Gibson's, and there was a really cute dog under one of the chairs, and I'm watching her, and she did two things wrong and one thing right. What she did wrong was what all beginners do. They see that pretty thing and they stop. What she did right was she then got down to the dog's eye level. She scrunched down so she could see the dog under the chair. And then what she did wrong was she didn't get close to the dog. She shot the dog with her iPhone from about 6 feet away. Well, the dog was friendly. We had petted the dog earlier, so we knew the dog was friendly. So get up close to the dog. Fill your frame with the subject. Make it as big as you can in the frame. And something with eyes, dogs, people, cats, birds, statues, whatever it is, if it has eyes, put one of their eyes on that 3D intersection. I guarantee your pictures will get better if you do that kind of stuff. Another thing you want to do, composition-wise, Monty, zoom with your feet. Exactly. That's the other thing that she did wrong. She used digital zoom. So she saw the dog from 6 feet away. She stopped. She got down, which was the good thing. And then she digitally zoomed in on the dog. I said, no, don't do that. Physically zoom. Never use digital zoom. Digital zoom is always going to suck. Optical zoom is good. Digital zoom is bad. And the iPhone has digital zoom, so it's bad. So yeah, just get closer. The other thing you want to do, talking about horizon center lines, is look for lines leading into and through your image. It's this wonderful little aspect of photography that, for example, you are standing in front of a brick building. You want to take a picture of someone standing up against a brick building. Don't take a picture of them directly in front of the brick building. Go on an angle so they're here and the brick building is going over your shoulder towards them, because the lines of the brick will draw your viewer's eyes into the person's face. Look for lines of gates, of like a picket fence that's going from outside the frame through the frame. Lines of clouds, lines of a mountain range. Look for those organic lines, or even real physical lines that happen in your shot, because those lines will help the viewer to look to the beginning of the line, and their eyes will naturally follow to the subject that you're shooting. Generally, you look for diagonal lines, because diagonal lines help move into the frame. Horizontal and vertical ones just sort of don't necessarily work all the time, but if that's the only one you can find, use those kinds of lines to draw people's eyes into it. Another mistake that beginners make is backgrounds. I do a photo critique every 3 or 4 months with my photography group. And so what happens is they send me photos, and we go down to a pub, and I go through them, and we look at the photos and say, hey, this is great, this is bad, try this. One of the most important aspects that beginners often miss is they get so focused on the subject, on the person's face, or the flower, or the car, they forget to look behind the subject. They forget to look to the left, to the right. You have to look around the frame. Just before you take the shutter picture, I always quickly look to the four corners of the frame to see if there's anything there that I want to cut off by moving my body, or raise or lower so there's no line going through their head, or the background distracting in some way. There are flowers in the wrong place, or a tree sticking up straight up out of their head, things like that. That can ruin a photo subconsciously. You might not even know why you don't like the photo, but when you see it, you go, it's not very good. And it might be because of these things that are sticking into and or out of someone's head. So just look behind the subject. Look to the left and the right. See if there's other things on either side of the subject that you can maybe get rid of or accentuate depending on what you're going to shoot and the way that you're going to shoot. Another thing I tell folks when we go on our photo walks is try not to take the same shot that you've seen other people take. Try to find a different way of looking at the same image. Many times, the easiest way to do that is by getting lower or getting higher. Those are the two easiest ways to do it. So, for example, in the idea of the brick wall and the subject, I wouldn't take a picture of the person standing in front of a brick wall, even though there were great lines there. That picture's been done 1,000 times. What I want to do, I want to get higher than that person, have them looking up at me, and shoot down. Or reverse, get lower than that person and shoot with them looking down at me. Try to find a different way of seeing the same old shots. Don't take the same picture that you've seen 1,000 times. Try to find a different way of seeing that image. As I said before, visualize the shot in your head before you actually ever push the shutter button. Think about the shot. This is part of the overall key that I try to teach beginners is you become a better photographer when you start thinking about photography. Instead of just seeing, oh, pretty, click. You go, oh, pretty, how can I make it prettier? What can I do in the next period of time, it might be 10 seconds, to make this a better shot than me just stopping and taking a picture? Sometimes that is the shot. But most of the time, for beginners, 95% of the time, there's something you can do that'll make the shot better. There's a way you can move. There is something you can add or you can take away. There's something that you can do to make the shot better. As always, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer questions that you guys might have about this kind of stuff. Send me emails to Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com. Get some more emails from you guys. There's my email box. There's my email box. Tanya, what should I buy with my money? A DSLR or an iPhone 6? Well, what do you want to do with your money, Tanya? You can get it. iPhone 6 is as of this September going to be the two generations old. So what, $300? I guess you can get an iPhone 6 for. Let's say $300. You're not going to get a very good DSLR for $300. $500? Yeah, you can get a brand new Canon Rebel line, Nikon D33 or 3400. What do you need more? You need a camera or a phone? You already have a phone? Then get a camera. If you don't have a phone, get a phone. The phone on the iPhone is pretty doggone good. I never lie about that. In the right lighting conditions, the iPhone can take amazingly good shots. And then combined with the software that you can get on the iPhone, you can create some very compelling images. So if it comes down to you don't have a phone, then buy a phone. If you already got a phone and want to upgrade your phone, go ahead. I think for the money that you're going to spend for an iPhone 6, again, if I'm assuming $300, I think you should buy the iPhone 6. John Tortelli, How are high-speed cameras used to capture action in sports? I'm not sure exactly what you mean, John, but I think if I can answer the question this way, capturing action is all about shutter speed. The faster your shutter speed, the more action you will capture. But maybe you don't want to capture action at high shutter speed. What I mean by that is, say you're taking a picture of a race car, and the race car is moving from your left to your right. Let's say you have a shutter speed of 1/4000th of a second, which is pretty damn fast. You've got perfect lighting conditions. You've got perfect placement. Your aperture is right. All you're going to play around with is your shutter speed. So that car comes and you take that picture. Boom. You nail 1/4000th of a second. What that will give you is the image of a car stopped. It looks like the car is parked there. At 1/4000th of a second, there'd be no sense of movement, of motion. It would look like it was a parked car. What you could do is, say, take the shot at 1/2000th of a second or 1/1000th of a second. It would take some practice to get that. So you could get a little bit of blur, especially on the tires. You'd focus on the head of the driver or on the body of the car, and because the body of the car isn't spinning as fast or isn't moving as fast as the wheels, you get this cool blur on the wheels, but the driver's head would be in focus, and that would give a sense of motion. The other thing you can do is move your body. A lot of folks will just shoot in that one spot, but what you can also do is what's called panning. So you focus on the car as it's coming towards you, and then you move your upper body with the car. So as the car is coming at you, you're moving the upper body, and moving the camera will allow you to get the car in focus, but the background will be blurry. And that also gives a really neat sense of motion. So if that's what you're talking about, how to capture high-speed motion, that's the easiest way to do it. What else I got? Should I sell my Nikon D610 and go with a Sony mirrorless camera? A lot of these questions are impossible to answer, kids. I don't know what kind of photographer you are. Is there something wrong with a Nikon D610? It's the generation before mine, and mine's a very good camera. If you don't like the size of the Nikon D610, yeah, sure, go ahead. Buy a mirrorless camera. But if you've got a investment in lenses, maybe you don't want to. You have to tell me what's wrong with the Nikon D610, which is a very good full-frame camera. I can't answer it better than that. Unless you wanted to go with a smaller camera, a smaller mirrorless camera for whatever reasons, travel photography or just a smaller, lighter camera. Without knowing more details, I can't help very much. Paul says, what's so good about the nifty 50 Canon 50mm lens? You know what? It's less than $200. If you can afford it, buy one. What's great about it is, first of all, because it's a prime lens, it's got no zoom ability. All right, so you can turn that dial all you want, just not going to move in and out. And what that means is, like I said earlier, as Monty pointed out, you have to zoom with your feet. If you want to get closer to something, you've got to physically move closer to it. If you want to get further away, you've got to physically back up from it. So it encourages you to physically move around the space. 50mm supposedly is also the field of view that we see with the human eye. So in theory, what you see, like a wide-angle lens, sees wider than the human eye, than in general what your view is in your eyes. So it can be disconcerting for some people. 50mm is supposedly the focal length of the human eye. So it's okay for portraits. The best part about the 50mm is twofold. One, it's fairly small and fairly unobtrusive. Now, unfortunately, with my Nikon D600, it's a fairly big body camera, so putting this little tiny lens on it isn't going to make a whole lot of difference. But for a lot of crop sensor cameras, it's more inconspicuous. It's also at f1.8. It means the aperture opens up really, really wide. And, as I've always said, in photography, we're taking pictures of light. So the more your aperture opens up, the more light that can come in. That means you can take pictures in darker environments. So, for example, the iPhone is quite often, without a flash, really, really bad at low light photography. If you're at the pub with friends, your iPhone shots aren't going to be very, very good. But I've taken some great shots with my 50 millimeter lens in pub lighting that's not much more than one overhead light, one 60-watt light bulb. And the shots come out really, really nicely because the aperture opens up so wide. And also because the aperture opens up so wide, it gives you really, really good background blur. That depth of field that Apple brags about on the iPhones becomes is even more prevalent on a lens that can open up to 1.8 than one at 4.5 or 6 or 11 or whatever it might be. So there's a lot of really good reasons for it. It's not just hype. It's a fun, in my mind, it's a fun lens. I like using the Nifty 50. It challenges me to think about photography differently. It challenges me to move forward and backwards and up and down and around more so than my 24-70 lens or those other kinds of lenses. As always, send emails about photography to Shawn at yourmaclifeshow.com. Love getting emails from you guys. If you have any questions about photography in general or anything along those lines, send them off to me. I'm just realizing as I'm sitting here, my back is killing me. I got to go. For those folks who tuned in late, I was in a hotel bed last night, and my back is just throbbing. I can barely sit up straight anymore, so I'm gonna go lie down on the couch for a little while, to my nice comfy couch. I want to say thanks as always to our friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com for joining us, and you guys for joining us live here on Wednesday evening, you folks in the RC chat room and the boys in the Slack chat room, and also to all of our friends who are listening in via the archive. Until next week, as always, you've been listening to I screwed that up, didn't I? I said, how do I say that wrong? Been doing this for 23 years, and I still get the ending wrong. As always, I've been Shawn King, and you've been listening to Your Mac Life. See ya! What a doofus!